Hello there, and welcome to the video that you are currently watching. The game of chess is broken up into 3 stages: the opening, the middle game, and the end game. This video will be showing you general opening principles that will guide your play in the first 5 or 10 moves of the game to hopefully get you a pretty decent position to play with. Again, hopefully better than your opponents for the rest of the game. So let's see how we do that. Alright, first things first, don't play f3. Wise words of Ben Feingold. Never play f3. Why? Well, let's see what happens if you're doing this, right? Boom. That's checkmate in 2 moves. Because you played f3, g4, weakened this diagonal to your king, and you got checkmated super quickly. How do we keep that from happening? Well, our first opening principle comes in, and that is attack the center with pawns. So we want to occupy the center, these 4 squares, with pawns. How do we do that? Well, we can push a pawn in the center like this. What this does is it controls one of the central squares, d5, and, we're occupying the e4 square. Ideally, like if black is doing nothing, right, just going back and forth, we would love to get 2 pawns in the center, just control all of these squares here. That is ideal. Now, let's say black just keeps shuffling back and forth. The second opening principle we have is that we want to bring out our bishops and knights. Notice pieces I did not mention here are rooks, queens, and the king. You want to get the king away, and we'll talk about that in our third principle. But we want to bring out our knights and bishops. Generally, you want to bring out knights before bishops, because knights naturally want to go to these squares, c3 and f3. And that is so that when you have this big center like this, the knights can support it, like this. They support the pawns. If the knight, if you brought your knight to h3, then you're not defending anything. And you're just on the side of the board, and these pawns are going to be loose. And also there's this saying in chess called, that goes, knights on the rim are dim, meaning look how many squares the knight on the edge controls. 4. But what happens when we throw the knight in the center of the board? Now it controls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares. So it's literally double the amount of squares. So it's like twice as good in the center, basically, if you think about it that way. So we want to develop our knights to these squares, support our center, then bishops can come after knights. You don't have to do it in that order, but it's good practice here. Because the bishops have several squares they can go to, whereas the knights are really naturally going to want to go to these 2 squares. All right. So let's say black just keeps shuffling back and forth. We want to bring out our bishops and knights into the center of the board, and boom. Dream scenario here. We've got our pawns out, our bishops, our knights, and we've got this big center here. We're not playing on the side, we're playing in the center. Third principle, castle early. We want to castle pretty much as soon as we can. Now, if black is really doing nothing here, then we have a choice to castle long or short. Castling short you can generally do quicker because you only have to get 2 pieces out of the way and not 3. But if there's a situation where you want to castle long and you're able to, go for it and see how it goes. But you want to castle your king to safety. Notice how the king is, within this little house here. He's in a bunker, and the battle is going to be happening in the center of the board where we put all our pieces. And we don't want our king stuck in the center because when it opens up, pieces are going to be barreling down towards us, and the king is going to be weak there. So we want to protect him all the way in the corner for the opening. So now that we've looked at what we want to do, right? We want to attack the center with pawns. We want to defend those pawns and develop our pieces around them in the center, knights and bishops. And we want to castle our king. What are things we don't want to do? Well, there's a few things. We don't want to move pieces more than 1 time in the opening. So let's say, white does a good job and black decides, I'm going to go attack with my knight. Well, you've moved the knight twice and you have no pawns out. You have no other pieces out. What are you doing? Because white, first of all, can just ignore you. The knight is not actually threatening to take anything. And if, you do this, well, guess what? I could attack you here and make you go there. And I can attack this knight. And then I can attack you again, right? And now you've got to move. And guess what? Look at this. Like, you've just wasted the entire opening, the first 6 moves, just moving 2 knights all the way around the board. Whereas we have developed pieces and taken a big center, and we are just going to develop all our pieces and attack black because we have a lead in development. So you don't want to move pieces more than once in the opening unless you have to. If, for example, like something like this happened and, you know, you pushed a pawn, or actually, let's say this, and you go here. I said don't move pieces more than once in the opening unless you have to. Here you have to move the knight because it's being attacked. So don't just say, they told me not to move my piece twice. No, you'll lose your knight. So you have to be careful. If a piece is being attacked by a pawn specifically, you got to move it. If it's being attacked by another piece, but it's defended enough times, you don't have to move it. Because if white takes, you just take back. And it was an equal trade, right? Knight for bishop, they're both worth 3 points. All right, so don't move pieces more than once in the opening. What else? We'd also do not want to put pieces on the side of the board. I said this earlier. So let's say white takes the center and black is just, you know, pushing, you know, pieces, putting them on the side of the board, right? So black is just playing these weird knight moves out to the side, but we already know knights aren't very good in this, on the side. And white's going to take the center and just control all of these key squares. So that's no good. We also don't want to bring our queen out too early because we, you know, if we bring our queen thinking I'm going to get super aggressive, maybe go for the scholar's mate if you learned that, then black, first of all, could fall for this trap, which loses a rook. But what if black just develops pieces and then kicks our queen out and then develops? Now we've wasted 2 turns with our queen, and our queen is like, you know, keeping our knight from going to its natural developing square. Black has 2 knights out and is going to get the bishop out and castle, and we haven't really had a successful attack. The queen isn't going to be able to launch a super powerful attack on her own in the opening of the game, okay? At lower levels, you might get away with it because someone, again, might blunder this. So if you want to try that out, you can see how it goes at a lower level. But if you're really trying to improve, you want to develop your pieces. So let's say something like this. We develop our knight and attack the pawn. Black has to defend that pawn, preferably with a knight, and that's why the knight wants to go to c6. We continue developing our pieces. This is called the 4 knights opening, right? And this is very good at a beginner level. Then you can bring out your bishop. Black might copy you, but could also do something like this. You want to castle early. Here, you can do this, create a nice pawn shape, and your bishop is defended. But you could also take. You could take and then push this. So you are allowed to trade. It's just, and now there's a weak pawn here, right? And you've got this nice pawn chain. You just want to create that strong and defended center and not hang any pieces. Don't throw your queen out, move pieces multiple times unless you have to. And castle your king, and you should be good to go. And those are just general opening principles. Another time I could go into more specific things and like an introduction to theory and what an actual opening like a London or the Queen's Gambit looks like. But to start, you know, these opening principles are something to get you going. I mean, I played these for a long time and basically just assessed any threats. Like if black, let's say I push, let's say I did this, right? And black went here. You just need to notice my pawn is being attacked and I have to defend it. And that's all you got to do. Assess the threats that the other player is posing. And if there aren't any, then just develop your pieces. If there are immediate threats, defend against them, prevent them, or, you know, attack something yourself. But yeah, those are just general opening principles. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thank you for sticking around if you made it to the end of this video. I do appreciate it. Hopefully that can kind of guide you. You can test these principles out in your own games. Let me know how it goes. And let me know if you have any suggestions for future videos or anything like that. Make sure you like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. All right. My laptop is about to die, so I had to cut the video, kind of rush to the end here. But that's all right. Have a great day.